Hello, thanks for checking out this video and welcome to my channel. My name is Chris, and here on this channel we talk all about koi ponds and water gardens, waterfalls, koi and pond filtration, water plants, the whole bit. So please check out my videos. I've got a ton of really cool videos here on this channel with a lot of information here. So you know, if there's something you need help with, you're looking to build a pond, you have one and need help with something, yeah, either way, you know, please check out all my videos, and hopefully there'll be something there that can help you out. Today's video, we are talking about how to clean a bead filter. I have another video here on my channel that's all about bead filters, and this is kind of an extension of that video where we're basically going to take it all apart and clean it. Okay, now why do I need to take it apart and clean it? Well, for instance, there may be times throughout the season that I run into clients that call me up and have a problem, you know, with the water flow in their pond. You know, they'll tell me that their pump's not working or there's no water coming out. The water flow is slow down my waterfall. And some people have called me and said, you know, there's something wrong with my filter. I backwashed everything yesterday. Today the water flow is down to a trickle, you know, kind of thing like that. Okay, so I'll go over to the house, and the first thing that I want to do, you know, after I look at the pump and make sure nothing's clogged up with the pump or the suction strainer or the skimmer or wherever the water's coming from, is I'll put the multi-valve on top of the pump into the recirculate position. All right, now what recirculate does is basically bypasses the filter itself. The water simply comes in the inlet pipes and goes right out the outlet. Okay, so it bypasses the whole filter system. If the water flow is flowing good when I put it into recirculate, I know that the problem is within the bead filter itself. Okay, so at that point, you know, we need to take it apart and clean it all out. Now, there's many times where people do not backwash their filters regularly enough, or not at all. And when that happens, you know, these bead filters get really caked up, solid, full of garbage really fast. Okay. So they need to be maintained. Again, check out my other video on bead filters. We'll talk all about that kind of stuff. And but anyway, now the other time that I really clean these bead filters out is at the end of the season. I shut down all my ponds for the winter, and when I do that, I will take apart the whole filter, remove all the beads, wash them all out, clean the whole system, clean the whole thing out, put everything back together, okay, and keep the tank drained for the winter. So this way I don't have any of the sludge and garbage rotting and decaying and stinking inside of this tank all winter. You know, instead, come next spring, I've got like a brand new filter ready to go. It's all cleaned and ready to go, okay? So we're going to show you how to do that. Now, I recently just cleaned a bead filter for a client that was a real mess, okay? So it was a good opportunity for me to show you how dirty these things can be, okay? And, you know, how to go about cleaning it, all right? So, okay, so let's just jump in. Let's dive in here first. First of all, you know, the first thing we need to do is to shut the pump off, obviously, and hopefully your bead filters have unions on all the connections, all the pipes connecting to it, okay? If they don't have unions on it, I would strongly suggest you put them on, because we cannot take it apart if our pipes are all solidly connected to it. Now, if you have rubber hoses or some kind of tubing or something connected to it and you're able to remove the head without removing the pipes, you know, that's great. but ideally, you know, it should be hooked up to PVC pipes, and there should be unions on it. These Aqua Ultraviolet units do come with unions that, you know, can be screwed into the unit, and this way we can take it apart and just remove the head off the top. Okay, so that's the first thing we do. And if you don't have one, it might be a good idea that you look into getting one. This is called a strap wrench. Okay, a strap wrench is a really easy way to loosen up these unions and take these unions apart. Now there's several different kinds of strap wrenches. This one here has basically a nylon strap, but some of them are rubber. But either way, these strap wrenches make our job of loosening and retightening up these unions really easy. So definitely we do that. Okay, so first thing we do, okay, disconnect all the unions. The second thing is there are, on these Aqua units, there's a big ring, a flange like that connects the head, seals the head down to the actual tank itself, and there's two big bolts through that ring that we need to loosen and take apart, and so we can remove that ring, and that allows us to lift up the head. Now inside the head there is a big O-ring. Okay, make sure we don't lose that. We need that O-ring to seal it when we put it back on. Okay, once we have the head off, now you can see, I have a picture here of this, how dirty and clogged up the basket, the strainer basket in this filter is, okay? So I'll show you too, toward the end of the video later, you know, how we take that strainer basket off, clean it all up, wash it, and put it all back together as well. But if you look down into this tank, you will see that it is really, really dirty, right? Now, at this point, there is basically probably no biological filtration going on inside this filter at this point. There's so much sludge and muck and crap inside of this filter, okay, that it's basically going to smother out and kill any of the bacteria that could possibly grow in there. So this has basically acted as a mechanical filter, collecting all the sediment and sludge out of the pond. Now, mind you, the pond is beautiful, clear, okay? The problem is, though, we're not getting the water flow out of the filter now. So basically all our biologics are shot at this point, because we need an oxygen-rich environment for the bacteria to grow and be healthy, right? To grow on all the surface area of the beads. And in here now what we see is just the beads are just covered in muck and sludge. So not a very healthy environment, right? So okay, so the standpipe that you see right down the middle of this tank, actually down in the bottom of the tank there's a whole array of like fingers of little strainers that come off of the bottom, okay, like a little manifold. We need to remove this first, all right? Now, I will tell you, in this tank, it's very hard to do, okay? Simply because there's so much sludge in this tank, and it's so packed up and heavy that to pull this pipe out from the middle, okay, up through all that sludge and sediment is really difficult, all right? So what I end up trying to do is I open the drain valve on the bottom of the tank and I let some of the water out. I don't want all these beads going down the center of that pipe, okay? So I want to lower the water level in this tank, you know, enough that I can wiggle and move that pipe around without getting all the beads down inside of it, all right? Now, for this particular tank, I actually had to take a water hose and shove a water hose down inside the beads, all right, all the way down, and move it around as much as I can. And we kind of wiggled this pipe back and forth and slowly loosened it and pulled it up a little bit and loosened it. It took some time to get this out, okay, because it's so packed up with garbage. Once we get the pipe up to the top, okay, we need to remove it out of the tank, but we can't move it out of the tank because all these little fingers are all spread out on the bottom of this little manifold. So what we need to do is we need to reach in the tank and fold all these little fingers up, okay? Fold them all up, they all flip up. Some filters maybe you have to, there's a way to unscrew them or remove them, whatever. But basically we've got to get this whole manifold up and out, okay? Once it's out of the tank, all right, then we can start removing the beads. Now, I want to show you here a picture. I have basically the tools that I'm going to use to clean this filter, okay? I have a big garbage pail. The garbage pail is going to hold all the beads after I wash and clean them off, all right? I have two buckets, two 5-gallon buckets that I use to hold up. Basically, I have a net here from a skimmer, a large skimmer, a nice big net. And you can see I'm going to put the two buckets down, the net over the top in between the two of them, and I'm going to dump my beads into that net to wash them off. I also have a smaller container here that is basically just a little plastic container from Home Depot that I can put down inside the hole of the bead filter and scoop the beads out and pull it back out. Now the little trick with that is we can't have it too big, okay, because we have to fit it inside that hole of the tank to get it down inside the tank, scoop up the beads and be able to remove it, right? Not only the can, but your hand, your arm as well has to come out of that hole, so it can't be too big. You'll also see I basically have here, I have part of a Gatorade, a plastic Gatorade bottle, okay? I cut the top off of it, and I'll show you what I use that for later, but that's a pretty important little piece. All right, and I also have it's like a 3-gallon plant container from a nursery plant, okay, from probably a perennial. It's a light plastic pot, and what I did is cut the bottom out of it and put a slice 3/4 of the way up the top, actually about 7/8 of the way up the top, and I'll show you what that's all about later. All right, so anyway, we're ready to take our beads out now, okay? So here we go. I have a little video here. I'm going to show you how I have the net set up on the two buckets. We scoop the beads out of the tank, dump, 3 or 4 containers of beads into the netting, and then we take our water hose and we spray them down, right? And we swish them all around and spray them and wash them, and all the muck comes out of the bottom, all the mud and the sludge comes out of the bottom of the net and onto the grass, okay, onto the ground. Once we have them thoroughly cleaned off, we can take that net and then just flip them in, dump them into our garbage pail. All right, and then we keep going and we keep going. We got to get all that beads out of that tank. As we are pulling the beads out of the tank, occasionally we need to make sure we have enough water in that tank, okay? If we can keep that tank pretty wet and all those beads, saturated in water and the drain valve open on the bottom, a lot of the mud and sludge and stuff will loosen up in there as we're scooping it out, and it makes it a little bit easier to clean the beads once we have them out of the tank, right? We're pulling out muddy water instead of solid caked mud, okay? So keep the inside of that bead filter, a nice amount of water in there so that the beads are easily to scoop out. And then you can just dump them into the net, and the muddy, dirty water will come right on off. Okay, so basically that's the process. It takes time, right? We got to get all those beads out of there. Some of these bead filters are smaller, they can be done quicker. Some of them are really big. Some of them I need 2 garbage pails to put all the beads in, okay? But typically, one for most of these filters is more than adequate, okay? So yeah, all right. So we get all these beads out. We get the whole inside of that tank drained cleaned out, hose it down, okay? Make sure you wash down the sides, clean that whole tank out so it's like, new again. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go to this standpipe with that little manifold, okay? And we're going to clean that all off, all right? Again, spray the water all down the tube. Make sure the water's coming out of all the, little outputs there. We don't want any beads inside this pipe, right? So make sure there's no beads in here. Now, on these Aqua Ultraviolet filters, all those little fingers on the bottom, we can fold them all down again, open them all up, and they actually unscrew, okay? So we can unscrew the little finger, out of the bottom, wash them all down, maybe bang them on a rock or something, make sure any garbage or debris comes out of them, spray them, wash them all down, take them all off, clean them all up, okay? Once they're all off, I take my hose, I run it inside that pipe, wash the whole pipe, make sure it's all clean, then screw all those little fingers back on, okay? Once you have it all put back together, then we can put it back inside our filter tank, all right? Again, you might have to fold up the fingers to put it down inside that hole. Once it's down inside the hole, just reach in and unfold those fingers, open them all up again, all right? And set it right down in the middle center of your tank again, all right? Now, before we put the beads back in, let's clean off the head, the strainer on the bottom of the multi-valve, okay? So there are a few screws around that rim, okay, and one that goes up the center of it. Unscrew them. Once you unscrew it, you can pull that strainer basket off, wash that strainer basket down, clean it all up real nice. I always run water through the valve itself, okay? Wash it all off, clean it all out, all right? Once we are all cleaned, put your strainer back on, put those screws back in to hold it on tight, all right? And now your valve head there is ready to go. So just leave it aside for now. Now we are going to take, remember that little Gatorade cup? Okay, I cut the top off of it. This is a little trick, all right? We're going to use that, we're going to turn it upside down and put it over the top of the standpipe that's there inside our filter, okay? This way I can dump all the beads back into this tank and none of them are going to go in the pipe, okay? So I used a little Gatorade thing because one day, I went to lunch, I got a great Gatorade, and after lunch I had to clean the filter and I needed something to cover up that standpipe with, and I said, oh, I can use my cup from the Gatorade. So I just cut the top off with a knife, perfect, and I've kept it. But any kind of cup, right, like a red Solo cup would probably work. You can take some plastic and a couple rubber bands or, a Ziploc bag or something, put it over the top and tighten it, anything, so long as we can keep the beads from going into that pipe, okay? But this little cup works great for me. Okay, so we get our garbage pail, right? We get our little scooper thing again. Now, I also have that pot from the perennial, from the nursery plant, okay? We're going to use that as our funnel to dump the beads back into the top of the tank, okay? See, I've been doing this for 25 years, right? It took me 20 years to figure out how to do all this little stuff, all right? So, yeah, so you can see I cut this pot right up, almost all the way up, all the way to the rim, and I left the rim solid. So basically it holds it together, a ring around the top, but I can fold the bottom in and make like a funnel, all right? So we set that in the top of our tank, and then we can bring our garbage pail over with all the beads, the nice clean washed off beads in there, and take our scooper and start scooping them back in, okay? Maybe use a little bigger bucket, a little whatever, but put all those beads back into that tank. Make sure they're all put in there when it's full and they're all nice and level, right? Not like all piled up on one side and a big hole in the other. Just keep them leveled off all around. All right. Once all the beads are back in the tank, okay, we can remove that cup off of the standpipe. All right, and get the head from our filter, our multi-valve, and set that right back up on top. All right, you'll see there's a pipe on the bottom of that head that goes in over the standpipe that's in the filter. Okay, so it slides right over the top. It fits nice and tight on the top. We get those two brackets with the screws. We'll bolt our head back onto the top. Connect all our valves back, right? Our unions back on, right? And make sure our drain plug on the bottom of the filter is on again, right? Nice and tight. Now at this point, your filter's like brand new, all right? It's a process, right? It's not easy. It takes some time to do, depending too on the size of the filter and how many beads are in there and how dirty they are, okay? But the filter now is like brand new, okay? So definitely at the end of the season, we want to do this. And, you know, again, if there's any times during the season where our water flow is really restricted because we're not backwashing it, this is what we need to do, okay? Now, I want to just give you one other little note on this, okay? I typically don't run these bead filters as my primary filter, okay? If you see some of my other videos, all the ponds I build, every one of them, I use 4-inch bottom drains, and it's all gravity fed into a filter system, a gravity fed filter system with 4-inch PVC piping. The only time I use a bead filter is if there's something existing that I have to adapt to it, all right? A pond is already existing, I can't get underneath it to put the bottom drains in. Or I use them as a secondary filter after my gravity-fed filter systems, okay? Now, here's the key, all right? And this is amazing to me, all right? If I have to clean one of these filters, say it's the end of the season, okay? I have a pond that I built that has 4-inch bottom drains into a gravity fed system. The pump pulls it out of the filter tank and then into a bead filter. I use that bead filter at that point for extra biological filtration, just to polish that water and for extra biological filtration if I know we have a lot of fish, okay? Now, cleaning the filters, the bead filters that are installed after my gravity fed filter systems, they're never dirty. They're hard, I mean, there's nothing in it, okay? Time after time, I would go to close a pond down, one of my ponds at the end of the year, and they have the bead filter there after my gravity-fed filter systems, and the beads are like, I mean, all I gotta do is backwash. Honestly, just do a little backwash, drain the tank. The beads are really, really, really clean, okay? So it makes such a big difference to have a pre-filter, so to speak, in front of the bead filter. When the bead filters are the primary filters, man, they're getting all that sludge and stuff pumped directly from the pond into the pump and straight into this filter, and they accumulate a lot of waste quickly, so they need to be backwashed, okay? You have to keep up with the backwashing. But I just wanted to point that out, that it's amazing to me the difference when bead filters installed after a gravity fed filter system, how much cleaner and how much more efficient they can be biologically. Definitely. All right. So, okay. So I'm going to wrap it up here. I hope that this helped you out. I hope you see, what it's like how to clean these things and why to clean them. And hopefully, if you have a bead filter system and you have some problems with it, this may be your issue. So I hope that this can help you out. All right, so thanks for watching. Please hit the like button. Hey, subscribe to the channel. I got so much stuff here, and it can really help you out. And it doesn't cost you anything, and all it's going to do is you're going to get a little notification when I put out a new video. So please subscribe to the channel. I'd really appreciate it. And hopefully we'll see you back in another video. Take care. Thanks a lot. Bye.